in association with Jaqua lighting, inspired by the sun, moon and stars.
Welcome back. In this segment, we focus in on the Philippines and the threat of ISIS. Well, a war between government troops and the Multi Group, a proxy of the Islamic State, has now entered its 23rd day, this in the southern Philippine city of Marawi. The government says 240 people have been killed, 202 are militants, 58 government troops. ISIS has released a video and photos showing Islamic State loyalists taking charge of abandoned armored cars full of dead troops. Even the United States has troops in the region. The Philippine Army says that the siege should have been over by June the 12th, the country's Independence Day, but now says it will take some time. So the big question is, how did ISIS, allegedly with origins in West Asia, make its way and presence felt in Southeast Asia, and what, if any, are the implications for India? Our senior foreign editor Padma explains.
The battle's been raging for almost a month and has taken more than 50 civilian lives. It's a war between troops of the Philippines Armed Forces and Islamist terrorists who claim to have slain hundreds of soldiers and forcibly converted dozens of Marawi's minority Christians to Islam. Filipino analysts point to the Mort group, led by Isnilon Hapilon, who switched loyalties from Abu Sayyaf, the old affiliate of the Al-Qaeda in the Philippines, to the new kid on the bloody block of Islamist terrorism, Daesh or the Islamic State. Whoever stabbed and shot people dead in Marawi, the Middle Eastern men in black, the ISIS, were quick to claim credit for the ongoing siege and plug it as a sign of their arrival in Asia. But how do foreign fanatics make inroads into the heart of a continent alien to them? With a little help from their local friends, of course. They provide logistics, contacts, schools to radicalize innocent minds, curricula, and plenty of clandestine sea and land routes to transport weapons. In Thailand, there is the BRNC preaching rigid Salafi Islam. There's its brutal branch, the RKK, which is set to enjoy convenient breaks in Malaysia after each violent attack. And there are also the equally radical PULO, GMIP and the BBMP. The indigenous Al-Mona, Darul Islamia and KMM in neighbouring Malaysia may have been defeated, but many of their members have melted into newly arrived foreign formations, both from the Middle East and the immediate neighbourhood, like the Al-Qaeda and the ISIS. There's a silver lining in neighbouring Indonesia, though. Terrorism from local Indonesian groups has decreased dramatically. But there is no dearth of murderous tourists. The Islamic State took proud charge of the heinous suicide attack in central Jakarta, in which 5 persons were killed and dozens injured just 2 years ago. But what about India, home to the 3rd largest Muslim population in the world and located just over 4,000 kilometers away from the scene of the battle in the Philippines? For all its rich pickings in tiny neighbouring countries like the Maldives and Sri Lanka, India, for the Islamic State, has been somewhat disappointing by yielding sparse pickings. But there is always dependable Pakistan to turn to, for which the Islamic State opened a South Asia bureau just 2 years ago. There's no direct involvement of the Islamic State in terror attacks within Pakistan so far, but there are plenty of local tour guides willing to assist. And heading the Islamic State's local chapter is none other than Hafiz Saeed Khan, who, as the ex-chief of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, even comes with handy professional experience. The greatest danger to India will come not from its own, but from its northwestern borders and beyond, from Afghanistan, from where the Islamic State has been steadily building its support base in Pakistan, reportedly through, among others, the Lal Masjid in Islamabad. Estimates of the number of Islamic State supporters in Pakistan and Afghanistan vary between 3,000 and 8,000. According to Karachi's own police in 2016, there were more than 24 ISIS militants active in the port city alone. The ominous black flags of the Islamic State have been spotted in India's state of Jammu and Kashmir. There are frequent attacks by Pakistan's army and the Islamist terror groups it supports upon Indian troops and civilians along the border to India. All the candlelight marchers in the world will not succeed in preventing the proliferation of such groups in Pakistan as long as Islamabad's own state institutions offer training, arms and support. But to effectively isolate a region already known as the mothership of global terrorism, India will have to seek out its other neighbours like Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and the Maldives. Given their own ties with Islamabad, that may not come immediately. But at least when the poison of fanaticism bloodies their own soils, it certainly will. Padma Rao, WION.
All right, to get perspective on this story, we have Andreas Lorenz, a former correspondent for Der Spiegel in South Asia, and we also have WION's Padma Rao, who stays with us to help us understand the ISIS control over Marawi. Thank you both for joining us tonight on Gravitas. Let me first start with you, Andreas. The threat, let's bring it home to Southeast Asia, specifically India. The fact that this ongoing fighting has been going on in the Philippines, what are, if any, the implications for India?
I honestly don't know what kind of implications for India exist. I honestly think that at the moment there is no danger for India to become a target of ISIS. The problem really lies in the Philippines, and the problem lies not only in the Philippines but especially in the southern area of the Philippines, where we have some criminal and some Islamic gangs doing what they are doing, kidnapping, trying to get control.
Right.
But by the way, they are also criminal types like the Maute group. The interesting thing is that these Philippine rebels, let me call them rebels, if they are not pirates, they have some context to ISIS. In earlier times, they had an allegiance with Al-Qaeda. Suddenly they switched. We don't know why they switched their allegiance. Now they are with ISIS, but actually and honestly, we really don't know how tight the connections are, what kind of connections they have. Do they get weapons from them? Do they get schooling from them? Do they have personal contact? Or is this just propaganda to say, to make the people frightened, we are part of ISIS?
All right, let me go to Padma really quickly. Padma, the fact that, perhaps there's an outsourcing, we don't really think about that, outsourcing terrorism, but is that what ISIS maybe is looking to do, sort of work with groups and send them out, and then once they've succeeded, if you'd like to call it, then claim, say, we have succeeded, ISIS has done X, Y, Z. I mean, is that the new trend, I guess, in the world of terror?
Yes, I mean, ISIS is known to claim things which it sees as, done by its subsidiaries, so to speak. Before that, I'd just like to introduce properly my colleague Andreas Lorenz at the other end of the Skype line. Andreas, as we all know, has been, was one of the journalists who was kidnapped by the Abu Sayyaf in the Philippines for, I think, about 19 or 20 days, and he was in captivity, and he's written extensively on it, and I was part of the same company at the time. So I would like to ask Andreas on WION's behalf, Andreas, do you sense a change in strategy of Islamist terrorists in the Philippines since the time that you were abducted? Or do you feel that they've grown stronger or weaker? What is your perception?
My perception is that there is, at least until now, there is no change in strategy. They are going on with kidnapping, making money out of kidnapping or trying to buy weapons of that. They are as cruel in their kidnappings as they were. What I am surprised about is that what's going on now in the city of Marawi, it seems to be that the Abu Sayyaf has found some more people and bandits and groups willing to cooperate with them. And this is a sign that the Philippine military, which is quite well educated, and it is even supported by air surveillance by the Americans, that they cannot win against these people.
All right, unfortunately that does it. We are out of time for this discussion, but we appreciate both of your perspectives. Before we let you go, we are going to thank all of our guests and wrap up on a heartwarming story that we don't always get to see on the news. A group of women in Afghanistan are now running an all-female news channel called Zan TV to try and improve the mindset and break stereotypes, filed by our correspondent Daniele Pagani in Kabul. I'm Archit Seshadri. Have a good night. Thanks for watching Gravitas, and we hope you enjoyed this story.
Afghanistan is no country for women, and it is not a stereotype. It takes just one day around the streets of Kabul to understand it. Shops, squares, markets, men dominate the entire public space. With thousands of cases a year, domestic violence is the norm. True, it happens also to find women working in NGOs, hospitals and government offices, but it is still an astonishing minority and mostly located in the big cities. Zan TV is a brave experiment, a TV channel thought for women by women. 60 brave ladies work here and are trying hard to change the country's mindset. Even some of the furniture is breaking stereotypes in Zan TV.
This channel has been established to achieve more justice. We want a just society. We want the same rights as men. We want to be allowed to work together with our brothers to contribute in making our society more open-minded.
Zan TV is the brainchild of the media entrepreneur Hamid Samara, who thought it was now time to start breaking gender barriers.
And this project that we started at the first time in Afghanistan, that should have a more focus on society problems that the women face to face on a daily basis. In the last 16 years, the international communities and also a lot of other NGOs, they did so many things for the women, but unfortunately nothing was sustainable. This is why this ideas come to our mind. We said, let's see if we can just make a TV, and it will be like a useful TV for the women that they can actually put their ability.
Zan means woman. The channel aims at providing a chance to all those women who do not want to live in submission all their life. The large majority of women in Afghanistan are confined within their houses. They can leave the domestic walls only if a close male relative accompanies them.
Women do not have a job. They have many problems in our society. When they are working in office, they often get harassed by men colleagues. We are trying to highlight these problems to show them to the people. Women have the ability to work outside. They are not made to stay within four walls. They can go out, they have to work with their brothers and show them their abilities. We can work out of our house.
But women inside their houses have a television, and reaching them, speaking about their problems and issues is what Zan TV reporters hope to do.
I came here to show and report about women's problem, and I would like to solve those problems. I would like to reach all women's ears. When I come in the morning, I prepare reports, then we start recording for TV, then we air it. We select the news which are more relevant to women.
There is all the energy of a new generation of Afghans in the women working at Zan TV, a generation which is more exposed to the world, willing to fight for their rights.
Afghanistan is my homeland and I respect it. But beside this, I know that we have to build it by ourselves. We have to work a lot. We have faced discrimination against each other. Our problem is discrimination between genders, tribes, ethnic groups. We must put all of this behind and think more about how to build our homeland.
The road is steep and long though. Zan TV needs investors to win its space in a crowded media arena. But the real challenge, perhaps, is to cross Kabul's boundaries. The Afghan aspirational educated middle class is mainly an urban phenomenon with a very little footprint in a rural country still made of villages and ruled by old traditions. It is the first time in the history of the country that many young women gather in order to understand what is going on in their own country and to deliver news to a large audience. This is undeniably a sign of how times are changing in Afghanistan, where a young generation is becoming more and more open and aspirational. Daniele Pagani from Kabul for WION.